in the Skull and Bones CIA movie.
Good Shepherd.
Very good. I knew that. I was just testing, keeping you guys on your feet. Very good. Very good. That's a great film. I highly recommend it. Probably the first time that Skull and Bones has been exposed in the cinema, in our fantasy land that we all love, right? So Trento did a great book called Prelude to Terror. I highly recommend it. It's all about the privatization of intelligence before 9/11. And then instead of doing his 9/11 book, he kind of backed off and did a book about aviation safety called Unsafe at Any Altitude. It's a good book. I just focused in on the Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar stuff that happens to be in there. Because in the middle of this aviation safety book, he's got this very interesting quote that says that he knows for a fact that those two Saudis were not just protected, but that they were agents of Saudi intelligence. They were GID. And I'm close enough to Trento that I called him up and I said, what are your sources? Can you tell me? And he was like, no, I can't tell you my sources, but I can just say that they are credible sources inside Western and Saudi intelligence. So, so many details in that part of the speech that I just want to make sure I got them all. I probably didn't get them all, but I might want to just take a quick peek at the outline if you don't mind. And yeah, okay, yeah. And then also another thing. Remember how I said that the CIA never put those terrorists on our terrorism watch list? They did only in late August of 2001, when the Mossad were tracking these guys in Florida. So I'm not one of those people that blames the Jews at all. In fact, the Jews were on the case a lot better than our CIA, because it's our CIA that deported these Mossad undercover agents from Florida. And the Mossad, as a gesture of ill will and revenge, published a list of terrorists who were about to attack the US in late August 2001. And on that list was Nawaf al-Hazmi, Khalid al-Mihdhar, and Mohammed Atta. And only then were the names put on the terrorism watch list. So, any questions so far? We can stop and take a question if anybody has any questions. No? Should I keep on going on? Kathleen?
I still don't understand how much reporting on 9/11 Dr. Graham did. In other words, it sounded like he was just innocently running into these people.
Yep.
And I didn't hear about just what he did that they would come down on him so much about.
And did his book get published?
Yeah, okay. No, his book never got published except for the free download you can get on sanderhicks.com. But, and a lot of left-wing people, I must give you a caveat, a lot of left-wing people go in expecting that this book is going to be written by a left-wing guy. It's not. It's written by a Bible Belt Christian who voted for Bush and, you know, helped form a Christian coalition chapter when they wanted to get Pat Robertson to speak in Shreveport. So he's not all that hip and not all that multicultural. But back to Kathleen's question, this also, I guess, is part of the answer, is that he was never really a 9/11 truth guy. He always, it's sort of there's a tragic naivete running throughout his manuscript in which you're kind of hoping he'll wake up and stop trusting the FBI and stop trusting the federal government so much. And you wish he had a broader historical understanding of, like, you know, Gulf of Tonkin, total media spectacle fabrication, you know, instead of, he sort of romanticizes some of his experiences in Vietnam in a way that I find abhorrent. But
so what was so dangerous about this guy? Like, why haven't you been killed for me? And what was wrong with him? Why did he know that was so dangerous they had to do him in?
Right. Well, he was going to publish his book on Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar, and I think because he was in the Bible Belt and he had this mainstream credibility, and because he had so much respect by the FBI and had been visited by the FBI numerous times, and it was provable that they had visited him before 9/11. It's kind of like, you know, I don't think you can have an understanding of the way that this murder happened by thinking of the enemy here or the murderer here as being some sort of perfectly logical, cold calculating beast. It's certainly beastly, but it wasn't, the murder itself wasn't done professionally. It was done with a dose of ethylene glycol that didn't kill him instantly. You know, it's kind of like the Vince Foster murder. Certainly wasn't done perfectly. It was done in a rush. It was done under duress. It was I can also, well, this is one thing I can answer you. It's like, I think I've got the motive. Maybe the motive is not totally understood, and maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe I just need to get beyond reasonable doubt of the official story. The official story is the FBI was there in the hospital telling doctors he committed suicide, and they were also there in Shreveport telling the media that he committed suicide, and or that he might have committed suicide. And that is certainly not true. Dr. Graham was actually en route to a very joyful wedding that was happening in his circle. And there's nobody in Shreveport that believes he could have committed suicide. So in terms of motive, means, and opportunity, well, we'd have to look elsewhere. We shouldn't look to Dr. Graham for being the one who killed Dr. Graham on May 29th, 2004. Or poisoned Dr. Graham on that day, as it were. Did I answer your question? Okay, good. So, yeah.
Just to follow up on that, is there more evidence within that free download of your website of his manuscript that would fill in the blanks, kind of, so to speak?
Yeah, you'll get more information than you could possibly have wanted. You get plenty of editorial opinion from Dr. Graham, but it's worth a look for serious scholars of 9/11. And there's lots of information, lots of details about meeting FBI, and couldn't get them to really pay attention to his material, etc. So I wanted to kind of amp it up a little bit, take it into the big picture for this second, shorter part of the talk. And I'm going to raise my music stand. One thing I've been pointing out is that even for people that maybe aren't in the 9/11 truth movement, the 9/11 situation or the 9/11 reaction in this country, the 9/11, the lack of curiosity about 9/11 on the part of the Bush-Cheney administration is just as bad, just as morally reprehensible as their attack on the Bill of Rights, the U.S. Constitution. David Icke is a conspiracy theorist from England. He thinks that they're all lizards, or they're a special race of shape-shifting aliens. That's what makes up the ruling class. I don't personally believe that. But I do believe an argument could be made that they are legal lizards, that their understanding of the Bill of Rights, of the U.S. Constitution, is reptilian. There's something extremely cold-blooded. They don't have the passion for democracy, for freedom of speech, for dissent, for the appreciation of diversity in terms of intellectual life. And this is coming out. You see this in the fact that they endorse torture as a procedure. They believe in domestic spying on dissidents. They're trying to put it through this new thing called the Real ID Act. This sort of is this is a response. I wanted to say that this is sort of a response to your song about national ID cards. Well, there is a new law coming through that people should know about. The ACLU is against it. I just attended a talk in New York about it. It's called the Real ID Act, and it's getting us closer to a national ID card and more intelligence sharing amongst the DMV and the national intelligence organizations. It's more centralization. It's more an info war against us. And we're going to take questions at the end. But one thing I wanted to say is, I'm certain most of you have heard about, torture and domestic spying, right? And we're all against that. But I wanted to say that, I believe this is a really great new book that came out from AK Press, and they gave me a case of them on credit for the tour, so I've also got this available. But this gives you an even broader historical understanding of just how out of control and corrupt the FBI has become in our lifetimes. Not just since 9/11, but there's been a war on against dissent in this country, probably for all the country's life, but it's been especially pitched, and it's especially